Thanks. Okay. Firstly, I'd just like to acknowledge First Nations peoples across these lands, the traditional custodians of the lands and waters. We pay respect to all elders past, present, and emerging, and we acknowledge a deep connection with country which has existed over 60,000 years. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that this was and always will be First Nations land. Also, just like to acknowledge any Aboriginal people in the room with us today, and also any victim survivors who might be in the room with us today. So first of all, a little bit about No to Violence and what we do and who we are. So for more than 30 years, we've been working directly with men who use family violence, providing a blend of pro-feminist understandings of drivers of gendered violence, therapeutic approaches to working with men using violence, and strategies for motivating a sense of personal accountability. Men's behaviour change programs emerged in a response to calls from feminists working within the shelter movement to develop responses to men using family violence. Over the years, the work has broadened, and the men's behaviour change program since the 1980s has seen a lot of growth and change in that time and is now used across a wide variety of settings. Examples today include things such as telephone counselling, case management, integrated family violence safety hubs such as the Orange Door, specialist family violence court settings and staff, individual counselling and other specialised support services. We are the largest peak body for working with men choosing to use violence. We have over 174 members currently, and our members also deliver a range of services, including those that are holistic, tailored, or mainstream. We support our members through a number of ways: policy and advocacy, sector and development, and workforce development. Through policy and advocacy, we're the leading voice speaking to key concerns about men's use of violence, translating members' concerns for decision makers, and closing the evidence practice loop. Through sector development, we provide specialist coordination and support on sector frameworks such as the MARAM framework, and our workforce development provides training across the sector on best practice ways of working with men using violence. We also provide direct service provision. So the services that we provide at No to Violence are the Men's Referral Service, which is a 24-hour support and referral service over the phone. It's an inbound service. In Victoria alone, the MRS service responded to more than 12,000 phone calls in this financial year. These are predominantly from men seeking support, information, advice, quite often information about housing, or brief counselling. However, in the last 12 months, we've seen an increase in calls coming from concerned family members and victim survivors calling No to Violence for information on how they can provide support or information to the person using violence in their home or their relationship. We also operate the Brief Intervention Service, which is a short-term counselling program, up to 10 sessions, again, all over the phone. This program was born during COVID times as a response to the lockdowns. Post-COVID, it finds its space as really reliable in keeping the men in view who are on what can be extremely long wait lists waiting to attend men's behaviour change, or for men who live remote or regional and therefore access to men's behaviour change programs is limited, or for men who perhaps are not eligible for group work or English may be their second language. We also operate the Police Referral Service in Victoria, which is a post-police intervention outbound service where we get the details of a person using violence and we make a call to them within the first 72 hours of the incident. And we have staff situated at a number of Victorian courts providing in-person supports to men in the court system. And lastly, and most relevant to today's conversation with you, is the Men's Accommodation Service, also known as the MAX program. And I'll talk more to this program in a moment. So housing is crucial to safety and dignity for victim survivors. We know that a lack of safe, accessible and affordable housing for both women and children and men who use violence significantly exacerbates victim survivor risk and safety. The recent and ongoing rental housing crisis has demonstrated the heartbreaking realities facing victim survivors experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity due to domestic and family violence, forcing victim survivors to choose between safety and shelter and stripping them of autonomy and dignity. Victim survivor choice is crucial, and we believe that hearing their voice and listening to what it is they want and need is 100% crucial. Sometimes staying in the family home is not the option, but when staying in the family home is the option, we believe that that is the priority option. Housing options are crucial likewise for the person using violence. If they don't have options for housing, we know that they will go back to the home. So being able to remove barriers and excuses, provide safe, clean and appropriate options leads to better outcomes for all. The MAX program is our men's accommodation and counselling service program operated by No to Violence in partnership with the Salvation Army in Victoria. So MAX keeps men who have used family violence in view through the provision of secure accommodation coupled with counselling support, while victim survivors remain supported and safe in their homes. The MAX counsellor's specialist knowledge involves managing high-risk situations. We keep men using family violence in view of key systems and work with them to ensure the safety of the victim survivors and cycles of violence. The MAX program provides up to 30 days accommodation for men excluded from the home. So it is important to note that to be eligible for the MAX program, the man has to have been excluded from the home. In January 2023, we sought to extend the eligibility criteria for MAX to be for men choosing to leave the family home as well. Unfortunately, whilst that was approved, access to safe, supported accommodation meant that we were not able at that time to extend the eligibility criteria. The demand from men simply being excluded was filling up the rooms before we could even move out the eligibility criteria. The other eligibility criteria that the man needs to meet is that he needs to agree to being part of and willing to engage in and take accountability for counselling. So the counselling sessions are run 2 to 3 times per week with additional 2 to 3 check-ins per week as well, based around the risk assessment. The program also includes an affected family member worker who connects with the affected family member, ensures they are linked to support services, and keeps them updated on where the man is, that he's still in view, and that he's still in the program. From the first session with our staff, conversations commence with the man in terms of living arrangements post his 30 days in the MAX program. Initially, this commenced during the COVID times also, this program, and accommodation options were much greater. Today, we're faced with the issue that despite the best efforts of our housing provider, St Kilda Crisis Centre, finding suitable or appropriate accommodation and what the definition of suitable and appropriate is not always easy, and this can be a blocker for men staying engaged. We know that housing is a significant factor, women sometimes choosing not to leave due to housing, and at the other end, men breaching orders and returning home if they're unable to find accommodation. MAX works to reduce the likelihood of further breaches, offer safe and appropriate accommodation as best we can, and keep the affected family member safe and informed, and start supporting the man to consider alternative options. Housing will always be a driver to poor decision making. If a man has no other choice other than to return to the family home in order to have a roof over his head, he will most likely do this, putting women and children at risk again. This financial year, the MAX program has directly supported almost 350 men to stay in supported accommodation and allow their family to stay in the family home. 12 months ago, our average night stay was less than 10 nights, and currently we have men staying on average 23 nights, with more men reaching the maximum of 30 nights than ever. It's worth noting also that originally the MAX program was a 14-night accommodation program. It was increased to 30 nights approximately 12 months ago. Men who are reaching their 30 nights with us, unfortunately, are often faced with homelessness at the end of their 30-night stay. The alternative is a cost too high for victim survivors to bear. So the cost of leaving an abusive relationship is estimated to cost approximately $22,000 per victim survivor. If all 4.2 million victim survivors of cohabitating partner violence in Australia needed to leave their homes to escape violence, this would cost a collective $96 billion. The cost to victim survivors is unacceptably high, especially considering that financial difficulties were present in 1 in 4, or 24%, of all family violence incidents responded to by Victoria Police in 22-23. We also know that recent separation is a significant risk factor for escalating violence, so it's crucial that men using violence are kept in view with alternative housing options at critical moments like these. Thank you.